Welcome to Caboose Top Hobbies YouTube page. First of all, I want to thank Carol and Merlin for giving me an opportunity to showcase some of my work, and in this video I'm going to give you a quick tour of a brand new portable layout that I built this summer during the coronavirus quarantine, and I'll talk a little bit about it and demonstrate some of the features on this and explain why I did this project. So in my opinion, I think one of the things that really is a barrier to get people into model railroading is it's difficult to explain a lot of the technology that is available in model railroading nowadays. A lot of people, when they associate toy trains, they think of trains running around a Christmas tree, you know, something very simple, track laid out, you know, a couple wires to hook it up, a small power pack, and you run the locomotives. I think one of the things that we can do as a hobby is showcase a lot of the technology and really what model railroading can do with a lot of the electronics and the features that really give you a pretty realistic experience of running trains. And part of the reason why I wanted to do this layout was to be able to take it to places, you know, show people that it isn't difficult to get into model railroading. You can do it as something as simple as a 4-foot by 1-foot box that we got here, and you know, a few simple items you can get up and running with a DCC layout. So at first glance, this is a pretty straightforward switching layout. You can see that I used the Digitrax DCS52, or this is also called the Zephyr Express. This is the new release that came out earlier in 2019. You can see that I got 4 turnouts on this layout, a couple pieces of mainline tracks, some spurs, some sidings coming off of that. But really, on the outside, it looks pretty simple. But I'm going to go ahead and show you what we got going on the inside. So this was very carefully designed, and I want to thank my brother for fabricating the frame for it. But this is designed to be able to flip up, and we can show exactly what's going on inside this layout. I use some pretty advanced techniques in doing this, and I'm going to use the rest of this video to kind of explain what all this layout has and sort of show you the hows and whys of how we got things going on. So again, first and foremost, I wanted to do this because you can talk about wiring a model railroad, and it's fairly difficult to actually see it firsthand on how do you actually wire a model layout. You know, short of coming into somebody's house, crawling underneath their layout, laying on the ground, looking up at the bottom of a layout table, you know, you don't really get a true sense and be able to fully understand what's going on with the wiring of a particular model layout. So with this one, I wanted people to have the ability to see it firsthand, look at it, ask questions. I think first and foremost, I'll just sort of talk about some of the parts and pieces here. So right here is the bus line. So these are the feeders or the wires that are coming off of the command station, which is just a little bit out of range of view of the camera here. So the bus line goes up, and then it just sort of runs parallel to where the track is, and then we'll run the feeder wires off of it. If you'll notice, I have a black, red, and green. Usually in most model railroads you don't have to run the ground, so the green is actually the ground wire for this particular layout. I'll talk about that here in just a second. But then you can see pretty much any black and red wire up on the underside of the layout. It's a feeder wire coming off of one of the tracks. Again, don't get too intimidated by that. The more feeders you run, the less likelihood you're going to have an electrical issue, a short in your track. I've experienced those, and they can be very frustrating because your train will be running along fine and it'll just completely stall out. So the more feeders you run, the less likelihood that you're going to have for running into short circuits. Again, I use tortoise switch machines. I know there are some other options available out there for switch machine motors, but the turnouts are all fully automated. I can control them with my DCC system. This right here, this module right here is a Digitrax SE8C, and it actually serves two purposes. You can see this ribbon wire coming off of the SE8C. There's actually 8 outputs, and these outputs control either semaphores, signals. They can control grade crossings. In this case, I actually have them hooked up to some Digitrax signals. Also, that there's power outlets here. So these actually are controlling the slow motion switch machine. So this is actually acting as a stationary decoder that's running the slow motion switch machines. There are other modules that Digitrax has available, like a DS64 that can run them. There's some other stationary controllers that run the modules. Another module you're going to notice on here is I have a Digitrax BXP88, and what this is, it serves two purposes. It is an occupancy detector as well as a transponding module. So if you have rolling stock, or if you have a locomotive that is transponder enabled, it will actually read the decoder address, and it will tell you specifically where that piece of rolling stock or locomotive is on your layout. So I'll actually show you that. I have a Digitrax transponder that I'll be able to demonstrate that with. So what's interesting about this is, generally when you wire up a model railroad, you run the bus wires, which are right here, and then you run all your feeders off the bus wire. If you look real careful, you can see that off these main bus lines I don't have any feeders. These come over to the BXP88, and then I'm actually running all of my feeders into the BXP88, and that's allowing me to have detection capability. So anytime that you have either a resistor installed on your trucks, on a piece of rolling stock, or certainly a locomotive that's drawing current from your command station, it will actually tell you the location of where the block is actually occupied from. So the cool thing about the occupancy detection is, you can see again, I got these ribbon cables coming off the BXP88. They're actually wired to these LEDs on the front fascia of the layout box, and it's broken up into blocks, very much like a prototypical railroad, where you have sections or blocks of track. I can tell where these blocks are actually occupied with either, again, a resistor installed on a truck, on a piece of rolling stock, or any powered locomotive that's going to draw current off of the command station. So I was able to wire that up into the front fascia here. Another thing you'll see right up here in this back top corner, that's a LocoNet LNWI, or it's the Wi-Fi module. So this will actually broadcast a Wi-Fi signal, where if you have a compatible app on your smartphone, or in my case, I actually use ProtoThrottle, and I'll show you that here in just a second. So this other module that's sort of tucked in right up here in this top right corner of the box, it's actually the receiver that runs my ProtoThrottle. So this connects and talks to the command station via the Wi-Fi module. So that's pretty cool. We're able to broadcast a Wi-Fi signal out of this, and again, shows off the technology. You know, you can actually run trains from your smartphone or from your iPad, or in this case, I'm going to show you that I have this wired up, so my computer, you can run JMRI, which is a free software program that can run trains. So there's a lot of different options available for this. Another thing I did on this layout is, with the front fascia, with the occupancy detection, I also wired up bicolor LEDs that give the indication of what the turnout is, whether it's in a closed or a thrown position. So if the turnout is closed or on the straight route, it'll show up as green. If the turnout is thrown, or it's going to the diverging route, it'll show up as red. So this sort of section right in here, this is a 12-volt power supply, so it's actually wired over here. I've got the plug-in over here on the left, but this is providing 12 volt out or an output. This is just a simple bus bar, so I have my output, my positive, and then I also have my my negative or my ground out. So these go up, and I have one yellow feeder in to each turnout, and then 2 white wires, which will give the directionality of whether or not the turnout is thrown or closed or not. So you can trace these white wires back down here to the LEDs on the front fascia. I wired a potentiometer into the circuit, so you can use the potentiometer, you can turn it up or down. It's going to control the brightness of the LEDs. Certainly if you have a little bit less brightness, your LEDs are going to last you a little bit longer. But you can see I got a bunch of resistors wired into the circuits to really protect the LEDs and make sure they're not getting too much current. So over here on this side, you can see this is basically where a lot of the power is. I'll give you a demonstration of this here in a minute, but this is just a simple amp meter. It's going to give you the amps of how much is coming off your track from your command station. And you can see it's wired up here, or it's designed where the 2 leads off of this are perfect width for an HO scale train track. So I'll show you that in a second. It's pretty cool. Nice little handy tool to troubleshoot if you have any short circuits or anything. So if you know anything about Digitrax products, you know there are 2 outputs from your command station that allow you to run 2 wires to some programming tracks. So if you wanted to do independent programming, reset some of your decoders, set your locomotive addresses, whatever, I have 2 wires coming from the command station allow me to hook it up and program from the command station. You can see right here I have an ESU Lokprogrammer. So if you have any type of ESU Lok sound decoders, if you have them, you know, yes, you can program them with your command station, but it's so much easier with the Lokprogrammer because they have independent software that makes programming the Lok sound decoders a lot easier. So a unique feature about this particular layout, I'll sort of flip this back down. This piece right here is my programming track. So I can actually program right up here on the front side of the layout. And what I did was the programming track wires, actually you can snake them down here. I put some quick connectors onto the programming track. So I can either have it wired up to be connected to the command station. I can unhook that or unplug that, plug in my Lokprogrammer, or I have 2 feeders coming off the bus line here and I can plug this in, and I don't even have to use this as a programming track. I can use this as an actual powered piece of my layout. So nice neat little feature, just gives me some flexibility since this is a smaller layout. Ordinarily if you just straight wired your programming track directly to your command station, that track is dead. You're not going to be able to use that for running trains, but with how I have this designed and set up, I do have the capabilities of doing that. So you can see I've got some power strips in here. I've got my command station wired up in here. Actually have some USB cables sticking out here. All of the modules internally are connected to a power strip, and the cool thing about this is all I have to do, I have one plug coming out the back side of this. So when I take this somewhere, all I have to do is find one single plug it in, we got it set up and we're ready to go. So last thing I'll show you here real quick before I get into what everybody wants to see, and that's the actual operation of some of the features of this. So here's a power supply for my computer, so all of that's embedded in here. I don't have to worry about a power cord for my computer flopping around. Have 2 USB cables sticking out of here. This one here is directly connected to my command station. One of the features I love about the Digitrax Zephyr Express is it actually has an internally built PR4 programmer, which allows that computer interface with USB cable, and then the second USB cable actually goes up to the Lokprogrammer. So in a nutshell, that is a lot of the features of this particular layout. So let's just go ahead and give you a quick tour of how this thing works. All right, so I'm going to see if I can do this without hurting myself. I'm going to plug it in to just a standard wall outlet, and I'll let you see what it does hooking up. So immediately you'll see a lot of the lights actually activate. Command station turns on. I'm gonna scroll just a little bit or pan the camera just a little bit to the right here. So you can see right now on the display panel up front here, you can see I've got 4 green LED turnouts or LED signals. That indicates all the turnouts are actually in a closed position. These are Digitrax signals, so you might be able to see a couple of them. They're actually all red right now, and I'll explain the signaling here in just a minute. So I want you to keep an eye on the control panel here. So when I power up or apply track power, you can see all of my detection zone LEDs lit up. And if you notice way over here, I got a couple, yeah, you can see it. So the BXP88 actually has 2 detection zones, A and B. These 2 LEDs, when they're red like this, it essentially means that both detection zones are actually operating properly. You can also see on my UP5 panel, the track status indicator is lit up. And also back here on the Zephyr Express, you can see that I have my track status indicator lit up as well. So I wanted to demonstrate this amp meter real quick. So I still have track power applied. And again, you're gonna watch this top voltage display here to sort of show what we got going on. So you can see that it's showing 13.9 volts. Again, this is a handy little tool. Got this off eBay, I believe. About 50 bucks, but it's well worth the price to ensure that you're, you know, not having a short or you're getting appropriate voltage to your track. Another really cool feature that I did for these turnouts that are DCC friendly, the frog has to be electrically isolated, because whether it's in the closed position or the thrown position, you know, you basically have rail A and rail B, and the polarity of that frog is going to vary depending upon if the train is going on the straight route or if it's going the diverging route. So what I did was, these are actually powered frogs. Run a feeder wire off the frogs, they're electrically isolated, and then inside the tortoise there's there are 2 single pole switches, and then you run 2 feeder wires off of the bus line, rail A and rail B, and then when the turnout is thrown, the polarity of the frog actually switches. So I'm going to demonstrate this here real quick. Hopefully you can see this. So right now the turnout is closed, and I'm getting 13.9 volts. Okay, you can barely see that. So if I try to do the exact same thing in the closed position, or I'm sorry, on the diverging route, you can see that I don't get any voltage reading, and that's simply because right here, these are both the same polarity. So if I'm gonna go ahead and change the direction of this turnout. So now if I do the exact same thing, you can see that I'm now getting a voltage reading on that frog. And if I try to do it this way, I get nothing. Basically what I'm doing is essentially I'm shorting out the circuit, because I'm bridging the gap between 2 similar polarities. Let's go ahead and close that back. So all of my frogs are power routed. Again, that's going to help with preventing shorts. It's going to allow, you know, if you're having like a switcher, something that's going really slow, or the turnouts, it just prevents that shorting out from occurring. Okay, so I have, this is a Broadway Limited SW7 switcher. I'm just going to do a little demo here. So I want you to pay attention to this LED right here. I'm going to turn this locomotive on, back it up. The detection zone starts right here, so you'll actually see this flicker just slightly as the train actually enters into the detection zone, and once it gets completely in there, you'll actually see this LED light up completely to indicate this block of track is actually occupied. So let's go ahead and fire this up. headlight on, throw it in reverse, give a little bit of throttle. So this delay is actually normal. I have CV3 and CV4 set at high values to really simulate a locomotive starting and stopping. They don't start and stop instantaneously, but you can see the locomotive's entering that detection zone. Again, you see a little bit of a flicker while the locomotive gets completely in the zone. So now the front truck has made it into the detection zone, and you can see this LED is lit up. So let's go ahead and exit the zone here. So you can see I exited that zone. While it's on the turnout, I don't have it wired up to do detection through the turnout. So now it's going to enter this detection zone right here. So you'll see that one flicker just a little bit. And it's going to come on. And I have one more. I don't know if you can see it behind that throttle cradle. Might be able to. So now it's entering the final detection zone. And so you can see it's lit up. So that's how the detection BXP88 works. I have 8 zones set up on this layout, and it's able to detect all of them. So if I had more locomotives on here, additional zones would be lit up. So one thing again I want to show you, all of the turnouts are, sorry, the locomotive's still belching some sounds out. All of the turnouts are actually controlled through the DCC system. So you enter the switch mode of your command station. This is turnout 1. There's 2 commands here, thrown or closed. It's in the closed position right now, so I'm going to throw it. So as I push this button, watch the turnout and then watch that LED indicator go from green to red. So now, just by looking at my map over here, I know that this LED or this turnout is in a closed position. I can also come down here and look at my command station and show where it's actually at. So I'll go ahead and close it. LED will flash back up to green. All of these are pre-wired up through that SE8C, and it's all run by the stationary decoder or the switch or turnout command on your command station. Now another thing I wanted to show is Digitrax actually has a really cool signaling feature, and you can set these up, and I haven't done it yet, and I apologize that I haven't had time to do it. It'll be a this winter project, but you can control through the BXP88 detection module. If you know what detection zone your locomotive is in, you can actually pre-program routes into your layout with the JMRI software connected to with the computer, and you can have this one set to green, this one set to yellow, that one set to red. So as the train progresses through the route, so you know green means proceed to the next signal, yellow means cautiously proceed to the next signal and be prepared to stop, and then obviously a red signal would tell the engineer that he or she needs to stop the locomotive. So right now these are not set up with the detection capabilities yet. I have to build the module within my computer, and I hope to get that done here in the next couple months hopefully. In the meantime, all of these are actually controlled by that SE8C, which is a stationary decoder. So while I'm still in the stationary command function of my turnout, all of these signals have unique decoder addresses. So for example, this decoder here, if I wanted to change it from red to green, the address on this is 267, and I'm going to send it a closed command, and it'll change that one to green. So then the top signal on this mast is 257, and if I want to make that green, I'll hit a close command. 258 a close command will actually make it flash yellow, or a throw command will make it yellow. So here, if I'm looking at this route, the locomotive, the engineer is going to say, okay, the signal's green, I can go to through the next block safely, get to this one, it indicates yellow, meaning I can get into the next block, but I'm going to have to stop when I get to the next signal. So I can do this. Whoops, wrong direction. So the only thing, eventually this will be all automated, so as the train goes past this signal, or if it leaves this block of track, this signal would automatically change from green to red. And then again, once it gets past this signal, it would change it to red. I have to do this manually now, but I think you get the gist of it. So it's going to be really cool. Once I get that set up, I'll be able to do signaling. And then again, the bottom mast has its own unique address, so if I wanted to go on to the diverging route, I would go, let's just say I want flashing yellow, so I'm going to do a close command on that. So it would basically say proceed with caution into the diverging route. So it's cool stuff. It is. It's really cool stuff, the technology. And again, it wasn't terribly hard. Digitrax, in my opinion, and I know there's other DCC systems, NCE, Lens, there's a bunch of them. I've had good luck with Digitrax. Let me kill the track power here for a second. To wire these up was pretty simple. Flip the top here. I'm going to pan up. So these ribbon cables, each LED basically needs 3 wires, so these are 10 wire ribbon cables, so it was pretty simple. They're quick connect. It was pretty simple. You basically just put your connectors on where the signals are, and you're hooked up and good to go. The manual tells you what addresses for each of the 8 output slots on the SE8C, so it's pretty self-explanatory once you get up and running. Okay, you can see I got my computer set up here. Again, how this was designed, I got everything fully integrated, so the computer just sits on the shelf here. Power cord is inside, all the USB cords are inside, so don't have a lot of excess cords hanging around, which I really like. I like things neat and tidy. One of the things I want to show you here real quick, and let me zoom in on the command station. So if you notice on the command station, I've got the USB plugged in to my computer, and right up here on the display screen it actually shows USB, so I know that I have a proper connection between the computer and the Digitrax command station. So I'm not going to go too in depth here, but I do want to show you real quick. I'm just going to go ahead and open up Decoder Pro, which is JMRI, and what that is, it's freeware. You can search for it on the internet. I'll put the link in the video here. So this is free software you can download. It allows you to do a lot of things. It allows you to create a locomotive roster, gives you the ability to change CV values pretty easily compared to changing things on your command station. You get to see a lot more detail, especially in terms of some of the functions. Gives you slide bars instead of changing actual CV values. So I'll give this a second to get loaded here. So I know you can't really read what's on the screen here, but I just want to demonstrate a couple things. So this red button right up here is track power on and off. So what I'm going to do, pay attention, here's the track power indicator where my finger is over on the command station. So when I click on this red button to turn track power on, you can see the track power status indicator lights up on the command station. We can control locomotives from here. We can actually create a, if we didn't have the LocoNet LNWI module, we could actually connect your phone throttle to your command station through the Wi-Fi network. One of the things we can do here is it'll control stationary decoder, so I just have a little screen popped up. I'm going to type in turnout 1, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this. So you can see up here this turnout actually throw, or went to the diverging route. So I'm going to go ahead and click closed. You can see that move back to a closed position. So I have the ability to control all aspects of the layout with a computer. What I want to do and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a virtual control panel on the computer, and I'll be able to program in routes, and again I'll have automatic control over my signals with how everything runs within JMRI. So it's pretty cool. I'm not there yet. I was hoping to have it done by now, just quite frankly ran out of time. Again, we can go ahead and kill track power, and you can see that the light went out on the command station. So just another, again, going back to what I said originally, a great way to show off the technology of model railroading, hooking up the computer and being able to do everything you need to do on your computer and have full control over your layout. So the last thing I wanted to show is the ProtoThrottle. This is made by Iowa Scaled Engineering. It's a company out of Colorado, and you know, these guys have created a DCC throttle. Looks very prototypical of what an EMD control stand would look like. So you have your 8 notches here for your prime mover. You have a reverser which controls the direction. You have your brake lever, horn handle. We got switches for front and rear lights, and this gives a much more prototypical operating experience when you're running your model railroad. One thing I want to stress, this is not a standalone DCC system. You can pretty much think of this as a wireless throttle. So you still have to be able to get this to communicate to your command station, and you do that with the ProtoThrottle receiver, which in the case of the Digitrax, it connects via the LNWI module. So it's a Wi-Fi connection with the DCC system through the LNWI. So this is actually connected and talking to the command station, because I'm getting a flashing green indicator here. So you do, just like any other DCC throttle, you actually have to program the address to your locomotive in. It has 20 pre-defined slots, so I have locomotive 1212 on here, so I'm going to go ahead and select it, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on track power. You don't have the ability to control track power, any stationary decoders. This is just a throttle for locomotives. So one thing I want you to pay attention to here, give the horn a little beep. Watch the front headlight and go ahead and turn it on. Here's dim, here's bright. I'm not sure how well that's showing up on the camera. It has buttons to activate the prime mover. One of the things that you'll notice with the ProtoThrottle, again, it is fully, it's wireless, so you can carry it around. Has a pretty good range, so if you have a larger, like a club style layout, it has a pretty good range where you can be, I think, 30 to 40 feet away from your receiver and still have good connection. Has some auxiliary functions, so here's the bell button. This is an auxiliary button. You can program to any function you want. I have it programmed up to drive hold. So let's go ahead and fire this thing up. So go ahead and select a forward direction. Put it into notch 1. Notch 2. Notch 3. So one thing I like about this, so let's put it back down to idle. You notice the locomotive keeps going. We apply brakes, and the locomotive stops. So kill the sound so you can hear me talk. Getting a ProtoThrottle, this is probably more for I would say at least a not a beginner model railroader. I would say you need to have a fair amount of expertise because there is a little bit of a learning curve. You have to do a lot of programming of your decoder to get it set up. So one of the things, and it's hard to show here, is the headlights and rear lights are not directional. And that's prototypical. When, you know, a real locomotive, if they were switching in the yard and they go to put the locomotive in reverse, you don't see the front headlight go off and the rear one come on. The front one stays on because it's controlled by a single switch. So I had to reprogram all of the CVs to get the lights to be non-directional. Changed a lot with the momentum, changed a lot with the braking to get a real prototypical feel. So I'll be honest, I use this probably 98% of the time, and I use my hand throttles 2% of the time, if even that. So just a nice, neat, cool little feature. Again, this is not a standalone DCC system. It coordinates with your DCC system. You can certainly investigate. It's compatible with most major brands, NCE, Lens, obviously Digitrax. So pretty neat little invention they came out with. So that's going to wrap up this video. I know I went through things pretty quickly, but you know, again, my goal is once we get through some of these restrictions we have going on right now, the plan is this is portable. It's going to fit the trunk of my car. You know, plan is to bring this into Caboose Stop at some point, do some DCC clinics, show it off. You know, help guys program CVs on their locomotives. Do some general troubleshooting, talk about, you know, some of the features on this, show off the ProtoThrottle, let people give an opportunity to see a ProtoThrottle in action, you know, and just talk about trains and really showcase the things that are cool about model railroading and the technology and things that we have available. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I appreciate Carol and Merlin for giving me this opportunity to show off this layout, and I look forward to seeing everybody soon.